Today, our episode is the Good Books Club review of Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic. Wow, what a title. What a title. What a book. I have some really, I would say funny takes on this book. Anyone who knows me knows that I love Cambric Creek, knows that I love CM Nascosta. All of her books are so wholesome. They know that Monster Smut has taken me on a literature and spiritual journey, which is still changing my life as we speak. So why did I choose this book? Well, it was because I kept getting begged by people to read it, and obviously I love the Cambric Creek series. And when I say I was getting begged by people to read it, mainly it was just my good friend Tanny Page, who was incessantly nagging me to read this book. So Tanny, if you're listening, shout out, but shout out to everyone who kept telling me to read this book as well. It's obviously a very original concept. I would say it's an exploration of interpersonal relationships, and it's very emotionally driven. It is a monster romance, which is fast becoming one of my favorite genres, and I don't want any commentary around that. If you don't agree with it, then I don't care. I would warn people about reading this in public, and I will dive into this in a bit. But just a heads up, I have my reservations about smutting in public for males, and we will discuss that in a moment. So obviously this is an explicit book. It's spicy on my spice scale, which has now got the Bronze Horseman at the top. I'll put this somewhere around the mid tier, and my spice scale is not so much about horniness, it's more about quality and how connected I am to it. So I would say that this was obviously off the charts on most people's spice scale, but for me it was about mid tier. My first impressions was I loved it. I'm truly loving Monster Smut, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I love the Cambric Creek series. There is something about Monster Smut that as soon as you start reading it, it's so wholesome, and it is truly at its core, it is about acceptance, and it is about, how would I frame this? It is about not fitting into a normal narrative and still being a functioning person with insecurities and fears and failures and desires and hopes and dreams. And it is truly such a accepting and wholesome genre, and I love it. I love it so much. My immediate takeaways were probably, even in I think probably within the first sort of few chapters, I could probably tell that I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as Morning Glory Milking Farm, but I was still so interested in the story. I mean, to get into it, we have to talk about the concept, and that is that the Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic is basically a sperm donation center that women go to for surrogacy, and werewolves have a unique insemination procedure that has very high success results. Very interesting concept, one that I loved. I loved. Their initial meeting of these two people is we have Moriah, who's just come out of a relationship. She's a little bit older. She really wants to have children. You know, she's at that stage where she's like, "Yep, I want to have children. I'm okay to do that on my own. I don't mind if the father is not in the picture. I just want to have a child because my womanhood is calling me to that." And Lowell what can we say? He's a bit pent up. He has some frustrations. He's trapped at home during the pandemic, and he's just looking for a release. And and we have a very beautiful love story that stems from that. So I want to talk about, this is such a theme through Sam Nascosta's Cambric Creek series is just how, just how detailed and how well put together the clinics are. I saw that in Morning Glory Milking Farm, and I see that now. It's actually quite I would say like a very like respectable, state of the art, cleanly environment that she creates, and it's all above board. There's nothing, there's nothing untoward about it. And I truly just love that. Like, I really do love that. For me, I think she really dives into, when she's setting up the clinic and talking about it, like, I think she really, I suppose, she really normalizes, an experience that a lot of women would go through, and probably an experience that a lot of women would feel shame around. And whether that be surrogacy and sperm donation, that kind of route is something that, many women have to take in their lives. And I just love how Sam Nascosta builds that world and makes it such a unique and accepting way to view that. And I think that the way she does that is so good. And it really resonated with me because I am actually an IVF baby. So my mother went through 3 rounds of IVF, and I'm sure that there would have been, she did that obviously in the 90s, in the early 90s. So there definitely would have been judgment and even maybe some shame like cast around that for her. So I just love that this, like the clinic and just those sorts of topics, I suppose, are dived into in that way and given acceptance and visibility, and shown from the actual struggling, the struggling woman side of that. I found the love story in this and the romance story of this book like really quite interesting, because obviously Moriah picks Lowell from a catalogue, so it's sort of a bit, I don't know, like a little bit, it's an interesting way, I suppose. But once again, this is also a reflection on the world that we live in, where people are picking each other on dating apps and looking at screens and just seeing a picture of someone and deciding who they like from a picture on a screen. So it once again has such connections to reality and to our real world. It has these really profound underpinnings to the storyline, and they meet up outside of the clinic and they have the meeting and they immediately fall for each other, and they immediately rush into having sex with each other. And I mean, that obviously comes from both of their sort of pent up sexual desires. But I just once again was so confronted with the fact that this is so real to world, this story. Seeing someone on a screen, picking someone on a screen, texting them to meet up, meeting up and having sex straight away. Like, that is literally the dating world that we are living in right now. And I wholeheartedly, like, there is no shame in doing that. Like, if that's your choice and that's how you want to do it, there is no shame in doing that. And that's the tools that we have in today's world. And I just love how this book sort of shone a light on that and gave it such acceptance. And also, for me, it was a place to reflect and even discuss like that sort of a topic and an issue that we have in today's world, and whether it be right or wrong or however you see it, like, that is just how it is. And that's how people have to go about fulfilling their dreams in the space of romance and parenthood. And I'll dive into the characters of Moriah and her sort of relentless focus on motherhood after her divorce. And I am not a woman. I will never be a woman. I will never be a mother. But I just felt so, I wanted it for her so much. And I felt such a connection to a struggle that obviously so many women go through, where they get to older in life and they really, really want to be mothers and they don't have a partner, and then they have to go down the route of sperm donation or surrogacy, etc. And that to me is just such a, I would say, such a deep human desire. And if it can't be done in a natural way, like, it is, something that you cannot ignore within yourself. And I really connected with Moriah and that part of her storyline. Obviously, once again, as a son of someone who had to go down the IVF line because my mother was just so set on motherhood and wanting children. So I really connected with that part of her story. And Lau, the reluctant, globe-trotting werewolf donor, he had such a innocent charm to him, and he was sort of, there were parts of him that I connected with too. When he was sort of cooped up with his family and living in his brother's guest house and things like that, and and being, I suppose, not forbidden but restricted from having a sexual outlet in his life. There were parts of that I connected to too, because I work remotely and I live remotely, and there's not another, there is not a female within hundreds of kilometers of me. And I actually really understood where he was coming from, in the sense that he sort of felt isolated and like he couldn't, connect romantically or sexually with other people. So there was parts of that I really understood as well, which is it's so beautiful to me. It's quite a ridiculous concept, but there were so many parts of this story that felt so real to me and felt so real to life and real to the worlds that we live in currently. And so the main conflict of the romance is that they start catching feelings for each other. And initially it was just meant to be a contract. It was just meant to be their contract to inseminate and then be done, see you later, never see you again. But they obviously start catching feelings for each other. And how does that intercede into what they were actually meant to be doing? And how it is a barrier to them pursuing just a normal real world relationship, and how even Mariah's divorce plays into that, and how her relationship with her ex-husband shows up in that. And I feel like, once again, just so much of that is so real to life. Another major theme of this book was self-acceptance and family, and how Moriah struggles with her loneliness and her anxiety and her deep desire just to have a child. And you sort of wonder, I wondered at times whether maybe her desire to have a child just came from her loneliness. But then Lau comes into the picture, and with his really sweet, really beautiful, accepting energy, it allows her to accept herself. And then Lau had his family, the Hemming family, and all of their expectations and everything that came with having the Hemming family name. And he had that scene with his dad, like right at the end of the book. And it was just so, like, for me, that scene where his dad sort of laid down the law of this is what it means to be a Hemming, and, you can't step outside of these boundaries. It's just so real, and something that so many people would struggle with is, who they are at their core and what their real and true identity is, and what their family and what their society and what their culture is telling them that they have to be, and what sort of role they have to fit into, and what the character that they're meant to be is played. And his father expects all of his sons to fit into the narrative that he tells them that they have to be. And it doesn't fit with Lau. And that was really profound to me, as someone who really struggled themselves with seeing the people around him and seeing parts of himself that weren't represented and weren't validated in the world around him. I just connected so deeply with that part of the book. I wanted to step into that conversation and tell his dad to get stuff, because it was so harmful to me for so long, and I could see how harmful it was to Lau. And it frustrates me even thinking about it now. Let's talk about the spice in this book, and let's talk about spicing in general in public for men. Okay, so I listened to this book on audiobook, and I was traveling, and I was in an airport listening to this book, and I just want to discuss. I just want to discuss the difference between male and female anatomy. And men, when aroused, have a visible physical reaction. And everyone kept saying to me, when you're listening to Spice, when you're listening to Smut in public, you need to have a good poker face. Now, I've got a pretty good poker face. I don't think my arousal shows through on my face, but I don't have a poker appendage. And that sort of lies outside of the realms of the conscious mind, I believe. And it really got me thinking that I think we have to. I'm a very big supporter of abolishing traditional gender roles, but I think that there has to be a line drawn here between men and women, and I don't think it's appropriate for men to be listening to Spice in public because I felt very uncomfortable. The Spice was very well written. I actually really enjoy CM Nascosta's writing in that area. It's explicit without being gross. So I do really enjoy it. And I'm not afraid to admit, I'm absolutely not afraid to admit that these books arouse me and get the blood pumping. But it's just, I don't think it's acceptable in public. I'm probably gonna have to think about it a bit more, maybe be a bit more tactful about it. I did feel like the romance was done well with the sex side of the book. So I did enjoy that. I did enjoy it. Once again, I'm not afraid to admit, it's something that surprises me. It's something that 6 months ago I would have never, ever said. If you told me 6 months ago that I would love Monster Smut and that I would love Spice, I literally would have called you delirious. So I have to eat my own words and happily admit that it's something that I do enjoy. My final thoughts on this book are it is another stellar Monster Smut book. Cambric Creek just does not miss. CM Nascosta does not miss. Like, these Monster Smuts are incredible. I love them so much. If you are a fan of a cozy monster romance with a very unique concept to it, but very based in reality, with a lot of acceptance and really character driven. And what I love so much is all of her stories show such real humanity with insecurities and flaws and doubts and fears. And I just love that because it's everything that I experience myself going through romance and going through life. And I love that. So if you love all of those things with a very high level of Spice, you will love this book. And I hope that you all read it with me. And I am jealous of my female audience being able to smut in public, because I don't think moving forward that I am allowed to. That was a fantastic book for our Good Books Club. I loved it. I'm loving this book club so much. I mean, reading books is what I love the most, and reading books with people is the best thing ever. The next book for the Good Books Club is The Invisible Life by Addie LaRue. Now, this book recommendation actually came from Brianna a few episodes back, but also a lot of you blew up in my DMs suggesting this one. So I have been forced by the weight of the public to make this our book, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I am really excited for this. This seems really interesting, and Brianna's audio made me super interested to know what happened. She was 100 pages off of finishing when she sent it through. So I'd love you to reach out, Brianna, and tell me how the ending was. And we're also going to read it. It is about a deal with the devil, and a thing that's probably something that I've made a few times in my life too, and it has never ended well. So I'm intrigued to see how Addie LaRue's deal finishes up. Thank you to everyone who sent voice memos to our email, which is goodbooks@9.com.au. We'll be back to review The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in a month's time. I'm so excited for it. For any more details on this, you can check out the podcast notes below. I can't thank you enough for joining me on this episode of In the Good Books. I'm so overjoyed to be able to talk about magic and words with more and more people. I'd be genuinely grateful if you'd subscribe to In the Good Books by hitting the follow button in your podcast app. I look forward to the next chapter.